essentially our society is still holding on to a timeline from the 50s. You should have a house by 22 and you should be doing this by this age and this by this age. Throw it out the window. We live in a different society now, and you find your people and you find your way in its own time.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got one heck of a treat for you today, my friends. And don't worry, the treat is definitely sweet enough to eat because we got a multi-time author here, folks, a multi-time author. It's not a massive inspiration nuke like one of our past episodes, but it's back to one of those regular handicap matches where it's two super special, awesome authors in one. Just think of that random meme with three sheep under a trench coat when you think of this guest right here, because this fabulous author right here, should say these fabulous authors, lives in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains and what may become Co-Y Grid. That's right, folks, the Co-Y Grid. And they share a house with a brat and fur, a husband, and a great many books. And their search engine history may garner them a call from the FBI one day. And we did have some FBI agents on this podcast in the past, so that'll be interesting. And when they're not living on base 1407, they advocate for a more equitable society and more sustainable agricultural practices, participate in sundry geekdom, and do their best to walk their characters' talk. So let's give it up for the tag team itself, the tag team of the super special, awesome Nonir Amiacita and Olivia Wylie, O.E. Tearmann. How you doing today, folks?
Doing great. How are you?
Yeah, doing great with all the R's.
Yeah, it's good to be on. So we're a writing team that uses the O.E. Tearmann pen name as a trench coat, and we're two authors in a trench coat.
Oh, yeah. So what led to the pen name? Because it's an interesting pen name, especially Tearmann. It's like, oh, are they tearing some paper up? Are they crying tears of joy? Like, what led to it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you go. Fight.
Yeah. So Nonir and I both speak the Irish language. Some people call it Gaelic. And Tearmann is the word for a sanctuary or a place to harbor your ship during a storm specifically. So when we were hunting around for a pen name we wanted to use, we knew that we were going to be writing about a lot of characters who come from marginalized backgrounds and writing about how people can support each other in hard times. So we decided, why don't we go for a name that means sanctuary? And so we anglicized it to Tearmann and went with that. And then the front is just our initials.
Ah, that's right. The OE, that's me, as in the us's.
Yep. But yeah, the Irish language has saved me a couple of times because I will switch into it to curse. And I learned that from my great-grandfather. Mm-hmm. And as a young person in school, I got in a lot less trouble than I would have, because if I was angry enough, all that came out was Irish.
It's also really entertaining. It's also really entertaining being around her when she does it in public nowadays. I mean, not that we've been in public for a year, but pre-COVID, Liv just starts cursing in Irish and like half the room goes, "What is happening over there?"
And if I'm not mistaken, that's only one of your total 5 languages, right?
I can curse in 5 languages. I can only really speak 3 with any decent quality. I'd like to get fluent in my 4th again, but it's not going to happen for a good couple of years. My plate's full.
Ooh, what's the 4th?
So it's English, Irish, Spanish, and Menominee. I'm mixed race Irish Menominee, and I grew up hearing Irish and Menominee around the house. Menominee is the tribe of Upper Wisconsin, and I grew up on the Kashena Reservation. But that's one of those languages, like Irish, I'm not as fluent as I would like because of laziness. There are plenty of places to get good Irish information, including Duolingo. Menominee is really hard if you're not living at home to practice because barely anybody outside Wisconsin speaks it.
All right. Learn something new today. All right. That's what I'm talking about. It's always great to learn, especially about something you may not hear about on the regular.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Cussing people out in Irish. You're like, oh, thank you.
Well, Nonier's Irish is actually better than mine because they actually went to school for it properly. I just picked up what my great
I wouldn't say
used.
properly. I was there for 2 weeks.
So it's funny because that also works our way into our writing because one of our characters is named Kevin McGillian, and I drew his name directly from Irish because Kevan was originally the noble one. And so if you looked at it in terms of the old language, it would have been the noble one, son of the Isles. And that's my geeky little in joke.
What's really funny is I don't think I actually knew that until just now.
Yes, the tea will be spilled. Too much
of a geek. Nobody ever gets to the joke.
Yeah, and it's like you find someone that gets, it's like, oh my gosh, I found the Holy Grail. Another human.
Yes.
That's right. Embrace the geekdom, indeed. That's right, indeed. So my goodness. So how did you two come to know each other? Because it's interesting to be able to find someone to actually pair up with as a writing duo and then actually publish more than one book. Like you got a whole freaking series. Like it's freaking amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just been rolling along.
Actually, going back to the Irish language, that's how we met. Liv had posted a meetup trying to get together an Irish language speaking club to help each other, learn and figure out grammar and pronunciation because the way it's spelled is nowhere near the way it's said. So I showed up to the first meeting and it was just the two of us. We started talking. I dragged her into a play-by-post roleplay site I was running at the time. And then we did a ton of roleplay together, which eventually led to writing this series actually as a play-by-post roleplay at first. So we wrote the entire series that way. And then as we're publishing, we're going back and fixing it and making sure everything is actually publishable and makes a good story and isn't just self-entertaining.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So do any fights break out when you're crafting characters and the stories making progress?
Sometimes. We've really learned to deal with that tension pretty well, though. At the beginning, it was really rough because we both have anxiety. And so one of us would bring up something and then the other one would just freak out. Oh no, I offended my co-writer. Everything's going to end now.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem we ran into as we started getting serious about publishable material was that Nonier and I have opposite reactions to stress. Mm-hmm. I essentially say, let me live in fantasy land. Let me just absolutely focus on this project. And Nonier turns off and is like, I don't want to have to do anything mentally challenging. I want to play a game and be relaxed. And so we had to learn to talk that through. And I had to learn to ask, are you in the mood? Instead of, hey, let's work on the thing.
And I had to learn how to set that boundary as well.
Yeah, so we both learned a lot, but it's been a good process to learn from each other that just because there's a disagreement doesn't mean you're in trouble or everything is over. because both of us have come up through various things in life that taught us if you screw up, you are screwed. And learning you can screw up and it'll be fine has meant a lot.
The other point of tension, now that I think about it, is how we write, because Liv is very much scientific minded. She's behind a lot of the world building in the series, and I'm completely a character person. I love those stories that are just really intimate, and the character arcs aren't necessarily world saving, but are still fascinating. And so trying to find that balance in the writing between Liv's love of all of the technology and here's exactly how it all works, and making sure that the character arcs and the characters were still real and engaging and sympathetic, that took a little bit of balancing as well.
And we partly balanced it by having characters who have different skills and different points of view. And it's worked as a good balance because, for example, so I should give a little bit of background. What we're writing is a unit in a force in the year 2155 fighting to bring democratic representation back to what used to be the United States of America. It's now called the United Corporations of America, and 7 corporations run the entire economy for a profit. So these are the folks fighting to bring democracy back. And our stories revolve around one unit in that fight. They're called the wildcards. And that is the background to what I'm going to tell you next, which is we have different people with different jobs. Like we have the tech officer, we have the commander, and so on and so forth. So we get to balance things when we can switch in chat from one chapter where the tech officer is like, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, all this tech stuff, to the next chapter where the commander pokes his head in and it's just like, is it working? And that's not his job. So when you're doing those chapters, you don't have to describe anything about the tech. It's just, hey, tweak, does it work? Getting the response, shut up, I'm working. Tweak's a bit of a brat.
Oh yeah, that's right. The corporations done took over America. We got to get it back, y'all.
I hope it's not like that, but yeah, there's we've had a lot of fun with it. Actually, this is my geeky world building side. We drew a lot of it from how the American West was settled, because essentially places like Anaconda Copper ran everything in some states. And there were company towns put out in the middle of nowhere where the company sold you everything and then paid your wages and then told you, oh, you haven't paid for your bread yet, so we're taking that out of your wages. You essentially got stuck.
Yeah, so that combined with, watching everything happening in the last decade led to the series pretty much, and all that, how we built the world. And it's kind of our quiet little rebellion, because neither of us are loud activists, for lack of a better term, but we both want to change the world through our stories. And so I think taking this particular story, having a super diverse cast, and that balance between the interesting technology and the character arcs and the fiction and the activism, I think that was really the goal we were going for, and I like to think that we hit it, or are in the process of hitting it, because the series isn't over yet.
Yeah, I'm currently having a very funny day because I'm listening to the proof for the audiobook of book 3 in the series. And later today, I'm going to be working on the draft for book 6. So we're definitely in the thick of it.
Yeah, that's right. Indeed. The thick of it, like a bowl of oatmeal. Indeed. So my goodness, that's definitely got to be an interesting process, because I'm pretty sure you reread the previous books as you're working on the newer books.
For me, that's where the audiobooks help. I like audiobooks, and this is another place where we kind of have to grin at each other because I love audiobooks and Nonir can't focus on them. So I'll cheat by going back through the audiobooks. Plus, we have a reader who is freaking amazing. So it's nice. But yeah, when we're working on things, we usually have a copy of the older books sitting on the shelf beside us. And we're like, what was that thing? Where was that? Let's check.
I just have the documents up. I don't know why you go to the other books.
I have to, because if I'm staring at the screen too long, my brain starts to turn inside out. So I go and get the physical copies and check the books.
Fair enough.
It's also a chance to get up, because as a writer, if you are the type of writer I am, you can easily sit for 4 hours straight and forget that you have a body, and then suddenly you stand up and everything goes crick, 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 crack.
Stop calling me out, Liv. It's been like my entire COVID existence.
Yeah, definitely right about that, because that can happen so easily, like heck before COVID and now, heck during COVID and now with the moving, hopefully away from the COVID, is like, hey, if you instead of being a couch potato, being a computer share potato, it can really wreak havoc on your body if you don't give yourself like a good few moments to move your body a bit and do some stretching or something. Heck,
Mhm.
even giving your body enough water too, so it stays hydrated.
Oh yeah, actually, we played with that in one of our books. Our little coder, the tech officer, she was focused on basically getting some revenge. So she didn't eat or barely drink anything but coffee for about 6 hours, and she passed out. And that's our little reminder, both to ourselves and others, like, yes, your work is important, but please eat.
That's right.
So,
And
yeah, it's
then in
always
the
fun
old
writing scenes like that. But it's kind of funny because my day job is as a landscaper. I own a landscaping business, and so there's nothing better in the world for me than the weekends when I can just write and not move, because my day job is move this heavy rock over there and put this plant in the ground. Here's the shovel.
There you go. That's right. Claiming some land. That's right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. One of my big moves is to get Kentucky bluegrass out of Colorado. The problem is in the name. Nothing named Kentucky should be trying to survive in Colorado. It just doesn't do well, and it drinks all of our water. And I'm trying to teach people to plant native gardens. So that's one of my little things. But we play with that. Oh, sorry.
One of your soapboxes.
That's one of my taller soapboxes. But we play with it in our writing as well, because we're working with these little gardens that the folks are working to create, and essentially 2 whole books almost were focused on getting a hold of seeds that weren't corporate patented, so that hadn't been genetically altered by the agricultural corporation. And that's not as much sci-fi as you would think, given some of the lawsuits that Monsanto has tried to put in place to keep some of their Roundup Ready corn and other things under patent. And you look into this stuff and it is creepy. And so I like to joke that we're more magpies than artists, or excuse me, we're more magpies than writers sometimes. We're just borrowing really interesting things from the world and weaving them together into a nest of stories.
I mean, that's kind of what authors do, huh?
Yeah, true. I think many authors won't admit it, but hey, I like shiny things.
And I'm so glad you said Monsanto, because I was about to cough it open, but hey, you actually did it yourself. So good. All right.
Oh,
So
no, I'm happy to call them out. What makes me really sad, and this is another one of my slightly shorter soapbox, is that I see technology as amoral, but that said, I'm an optimist, so it always makes me irritated when I see technology used badly. The tech for genetic modification I see as having wonderful possibilities. we could be making perennial corn with nodules from nitrogen fixing plants that would feed the soil it's growing in instead of destroying it. But no, what do they make? Corn that can be sprayed with glyphosate, which is not good. And so I like being able to use fiction to point out the different uses tech can be turned to. So we're writing crops that have nodules from peanuts in them so they can fix their own nitrogen and basically restore the soil they're grown in. And we have plants, agricultural plants with really deep perennial roots that don't need to be surface watered, so you don't need to empty all the aquifers. Essentially, humans have been genetically modifying our plants for a very long time by selective breeding, but we've done it in a rather haphazard way, and some of it has ended really badly. I mean, the really water-hungry corn that we had is horrible for our environment. So if we messed with it and messed it up, let's mess with it and fix it. That's kind of my mindset.
I told you she was a tech nerd.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with being a tech nerd. And I like that you have soapboxes with different heights. So is there like a 6 foot tall soapbox in your brain somewhere?
There is, and that is every person is worthy of dignity and every person is worthy of respect. And this society that we live in that tries to decide based on something arbitrary who's worth what and who gets what resources has to change or it's going to die. Slowly or quickly, one way or another. If we don't learn to be more egalitarian, we're going down.
Yes, indeed. Definitely got to be people first in this day and age, because sometimes folks forget, like, hey, at least treat your fellow human with kindness and respect. 'Cause that's what we all desire, whether we want to admit it or not. Like, it's like kind of like the golden rule, heck, even the platinum rule of treating people the way they want to be treated. It's like, hey, like humans deserve kindness and respect. It's like, hey, some humans can, be humans and go off the deep end and do something stupid, but if they're willing to be informed about some of the decisions they're making and they make a change afterward, then it's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah, agreed. And I tend to have a kind of regenerative mindset with people. I mean, yeah, you meet those people where it's like, right now, I just need to get away from you. But I have the mindset that if somebody has done something like that, it means they were broken first. So let's fix the stuff in society that keeps breaking people instead of saying, why are there all these sharp shards of glass around? Let's figure out what keeps breaking the glass.
I mean, we know what's breaking the glass. We just don't want to fix it as a society.
As a society, but I think that can change. And that's one of the things we want to write about. And to push that, in the back of each of our books, we put a set of resources for mental and community health, because we want somebody who's been reading this book and being like, wow, there are people like me. Wow, I didn't know that that was going on. To flip to the last page and go, oh, wow, there are resources in the real world that can help me.
And part of that came from the fact that we touch on some really heavy mental health issues in the books. And we're kind of tired of all of those PSAs around things that touch on mental health of, if you're struggling, go get help, but don't actually have any sort of advice or places to turn. And so we said, we're going to actually put those resources in.
Yeah, because it's almost worse than nothing to be told you should go get help with no actual help.
No direction.
Yeah.
Like the angry person where you ask them where they got the resources from, then they tell you to do your research and they get mad at you.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a place for that. There are some people where you look at them and you realize that they're trying to, I might get myself in hot water here, but I've met some people who are just trying to waste your time by asking a million questions. And that's the point where I'm like, I'd recommend these resources for you to read. And that's my way of saying Google it. Like, I'll give you a list of books, but I'm not giving you answers myself. Go read. But when somebody is like trying to learn and you tell them Google it, that's a great way to lose an ally.
But also it really depends on the topic, because there are some topics where especially marginalized people have been asked to do so much emotional labor for no return that that's a boundary that needs to be set of I cannot educate you on what it's like to be queer anymore.
Yeah, and you make a great point there. It's like everything with humans, it's situational. So it's on you as the person asking the question to think the situation through and say to yourself, if I was in the other person's shoes, would I have the energy or the time to answer that question? And if the answer is no, don't do it. Because in the middle of a convention, when people, this is the example I tend to see in the middle of a convention when there are a million things going on, trying to sit someone down and ask them what it's like to be queer is just not fair, because or why shouldn't I use that pronoun is just not fair, because we're all overloaded and half of us are buzzed on caffeine and half of us are still hungover. Don't ask hard questions at a con.
Or if you do, come to the panel on the subject, because
exactly, go to the panel. Don't ask the guy in the hall or the person in the hallway the hard question. I miss cons, by the way.
I do too.
I think we all do.
Oh yeah, just not common. Let me stop.
Oh. Well, and this is something we stress with our characters, because we have characters all across the different castes of the society. And one of the things we underline is that it's important to care enough to go and do your research when you find out a friend is going through something, and not make them go through one more thing, which is do my homework for me. So one of the cute scenes that we wrote when one couple was getting together is that one of the people in the couple is trans, and his crush went to the medical officer and was like, can I have a bunch of papers, please? I want to learn about this.
And not in like a creepy, privacy violating way.
No, in a, I don't want to screw up and I don't want to ask a million questions. So I need some resources. And I actually we wrote the scene as the character being like, so I don't want to troll the internet and get a bunch of wrong answers. I'm going to go to the medical officer. Because the internet is and will always be the internet.
That's a nice way of saying it.
I'm trying really hard to not break out in Avenue Q right now.
Yeah.
Right issues, but
I always think it's like a library run by rooks or crows. Everything is in there somewhere, but where it is anybody's guess.
That's right. It's around here somewhere. It's got to go through all the mess. That's right. All right, found all these old technology. Hey, I found a blender. Let me use this blender. No, I was looking for something. No, I got distracted.
Yeah, not that.
This is why I can't be online when I'm trying to write. I am the epitome of that 42 different tabs open meme. That's me. It's a problem.
Yep, that's why I use one tab for my Google Chrome or Firefox, because I have too many tabs open myself.
Yeah.
Actually, my biggest problem is having my fingers in too many pies. So I will set aside a day as today is writing day. And then 2 people will message me on Hangouts, 3 will message me on Discord, and 2 will message me on Facebook. And they're all conversations I want to have, but not right now. And so I have to remember to turn all of that stuff off if I want to write.
You're just too popular.
Apparently, which is really weird.
Ain't nothing wrong with some good popularity. So that leads to a fabulous question. So since you two are both writers, like what do you do to basically stay focused on your writing? Because I'm pretty sure you both don't write at the same exact time for these novels.
F1, turn off all the tabs.
Yeah, turn off the net. But I mean, like I said, we have a rough draft for the entire book, or not book, the entire series. So basically, the general process is we'll kind of together determine where a particular book should begin and end within that overarching plot. And then Liv, like she says, likes to be a quilter and take bits and pieces that work and string them together and get the general draft out. And then I will take another look at it, make notes, and then we'll bounce it out to beta readers and sensitivity readers, and then make more notes and more edits.
Yep. And after we've gone through it with as fine of a tooth comb as we can, it goes out to our press, Amphibian Press, and V.S. Holmes over at Amphibian Press goes over it. And then we get the hard copies, and 6 months later, I open the book and find a typo and cuss. Because this is the nature of being an author. You don't find that typo until 6 months later.
I mean, that happens even in the big presses, so.
It does. It's just like we've been talking about. I like to be meticulous, so when I find that one mistake in the whole book, I'm still growling at it. And I jokingly say that typos are like mushrooms. They grow up overnight.
Shrooms.
I swear, you go through the whole thing. You've given it to, by the time our books are done, because we have enough beta and sensitivity and expert readers checking for various parts of the plot, like 6 people have read these books before they go to the press. And so you have to tip your hat to that one typo for its sheer perseverance.
Well, that's a great way of looking at it.
I mean, sheer rugged tenacity. It's impressive.
Sounds like a social media post. It's like, hey, you got to have the tenacity of a typo of a final
Yes.
book product if you want to succeed.
It's like weirdly motivating, actually.
It is. That needs to go up, I think. That's going to go up. but yeah, circling back to something Nonir said, essentially the real arc of this book is, spoilers, it can get better, because everything was so awful in 2016 that we started writing this darker, gritty, started off as cyberpunk, and then we started saying to ourselves, okay, what if we did this? What if we take it to the darkest place we could imagine? And then we imagine how we work our way back up into the light. How do you go from a terrible situation socially to a society worth living in that actually cares about its people? And that's the question we posited ourselves, and that's the question we are working to answer with this series. So it is a lot of fun because things are not as bleak as they look, and it's really good for us, and we hope good for our readers, to write this scrappy, stubborn resolve. It's not saying things are going to get better. It's saying, okay, yeah, things suck. Now let's get to work and see what we can do about it.
That's right. That's right, indeed. Got to go to work, indeed. Definitely got to go to magical work, indeed. So, my goodness. So, since this is far from the first rodeo for both of you, is there a question that you wish should be asked more often? It doesn't have to be the same question for both of you.
I always hate this question because I always come in like thinking about, okay, I'm going to answer this question with this. And then by the time we get to it, I have no idea what I was going to say.
Life is an RPG game. That's what happens.
Agreed.
Do you have anything, Liv?
I am always happy when people ask me about what kind of research went in, but that's cheating. So I suppose my question is, can things get better? We get that once in a while from a reader, like, hey, could things actually get this bad and then get better? And my answer is yes, if we stick together and take care of each other. That's the key. but we have to get people to a place where they can see each other as people to take care of instead of competition. And that's hard because that's changing a whole mindset that we're taught by this society and the future nightmare society we have created in our stories, but it's doable.
That's right. It's mountain doable, y'all. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, because it's like, oh, ain't nothing wrong with darkness, but it's hey, like, can we get some hope afterwards? Like
yeah,
a little.
I mean, it's like, darkness exists, but let's light a candle.
And I mean, the world itself is really dark right now, and media keeps getting darker because I don't know, Hollywood thinks we want dark and gritty and everything. So having something that's not constantly dark and gritty is kind of refreshing.
Yeah. Exactly. Like some Hallmark. Let me
That's
stop.
Okay,
it's really funny because I actually describe my personal work as queer Hallmark movies.
I think what I look for is believable, tenacious hope, because my mom loves Hallmark movies and I will watch them with her because I love her. They drive me bonkers because they just rub in your face the fact that you don't live in that world. So I prefer books that have the troubles of the world and still manage to be hopeful, as opposed to being, I suppose, pure escapism, because the pure escapism is kind of like a sugar rush for me. It drops me back in the real world with a bump going, oh, I'm still here. Crap.
But that's what I'm talking about, though. BTH. That's right. Beautiful, tenacious hope. That's right. It can happen.
It can. It takes work and it involves cussing, but it can.
That's right. Sometimes you just got to take a roll of pennies and punch the enemy in the face. That's right.
Oh, you know that trick too.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid, I actually did carry a roll of pennies at one point because I moved every 6 months after about the age of 11. And new kids are fresh meat until you're the new kid with a roll of pennies in your pocket. And suddenly you're not such easy meat.
That's right. Hyenas and vultures. Get away.
Yep. Jackals, bugger off.
That's right. Of course, the magical jackals, too.
That's
right.
All right. The Egyptian jackals are, okay, mythologically, they're kind of cool. But the snapping junkyard dogs that you meet in some schoolyards, I could do without. But yeah, so that's still going to be there in the world, but you can find your people, you can find your community. And that's kind of what we want to showcase for our readers, is that, yeah, all these things are hard, but there are people who will care about you out there, and there are good things in the world, and you can do this.
Oh, yeah. That's right. You can honeydew this. That's right. That's right. You can try to fight off the corn, but it's going to keep approaching.
But is it genetically modified corn?
No, it's just laughter modified corn.
Well played. Well played.
That's right. It's the LMFAO corn instead of the GMO corn.
Oh, wow.
Yep. That was definitely going in the Book of Domisms. That's right.
You'll have to let us know when that's published so we can like steal it and use it for the rest of our interviews.
Mm-hmm. And get a good laugh, because we all need a good laugh right now.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It was crazy. It was the year 2070. We're getting close to our hope being fulfilled. Then out of nowhere, this giant army of LMFAO corn just appeared. They're tired of being GMO corn.
Nice.
That's right. They had 10-pack abs and they wore sunglasses, even though it was really dark outside all the time.
But I'm brought back to one of our writing influences, mine, which was MASH 4077 and all the wonderful corny jokes in that. Because we ended up, when we first tried to describe this to each other, somebody asked for the elevator pitch, and I was like, I think I just stared at you, Nonir, and I was like,
Yeah, it took a while to get an elevator pitch out of you, but now you're better at pitching it than I am. So
now I am. But I think our first pitch was MASH 4077 cross with Minority Report, except then people my own age, I'm in my mid-30s, stared at me and went, what? It was painful. It's like, how can you have not seen MASH 4077?
I blame the potatoes.
I blame the internet. There's so much that nobody watches reruns anymore.
That's right. I blame Rev Run too. Oh man. But before I go too far down the rabbit hole of corn, is coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in the current year 2021, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, I would not want to be 25 right now in this time period, but I think it would be sign up for Acorn's investment earlier in my life. It would be, please go to frickin' therapy earlier in life. And it would be, get your medical tests done earlier in life. I have a genetic disorder, and I essentially, at that age, I was still asking myself, why are you a hot mess? Instead of, oh, look, there's a regimen of dieting, of diet and medication that you can take that fixes this. Look at that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's along the same lines, but definitely telling myself there's no shame in getting mental health help, and nothing's wrong with you if you need medication for that, as well as therapy and a support group. And then also just like some little general things of, don't trust so and so, and all those silly little tiny regrets.
Yeah, but it would be hard to be in your early 20s in 2021, because man, this is not the time to be trying to build a career.
Just started trying to build a career now, and I'm not 20 anymore.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, such is life. Sometimes late bloomer swag is where it's at.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
That's right. That's right indeed. Not everybody needs to be a tulip.
Well, I think that's something else I'd like to tell my younger self. I know this is a little bit tangential from your original question, but I'd like to tell myself, essentially, our society is still holding on to a timeline from the 50s of, you should have a house by 22 and you should be doing this by this age and this by this age. Throw it out the window. We live in a different society now, and you find your people and you find your way in its own time. So adding guilt on top of that because you're not in a white picket fence house by the time you're 21, screw that.
That's right. With all the screwdrivers, indeed, because white picket fences can get dirty real fast.
Oh yeah, especially on the inside.
Heck yeah. It's like crap. I can't just throw paint on it like it's modern art. Like I have to actually clean it. Like darn it. Just leave some paint on the grass for no reason. That Kentucky bluegrass.
Yeah, I'd happily drop paint on it because then it dies. And then I can plant Agasaki. Well, and it's funny because the biggest thing I've learned as I've gotten older is I say this with the preface within reason because nobody wants to see you streaking down Colfax Avenue. But within a baseline reasoning, don't let other people's rules control your life. Like live by the standard of this keeps me healthy and happy and doing well in life. So if anybody else objects, that's their problem. For example, I have a big, loud family, and I'm getting a fair amount of teasing that I'm a professional gardener, as they call me. And I wanted a townhouse when my partner and I finally bought a house. The whole reason I want a townhouse is because I am a gardener. And the last thing you want to do after you're done with your day job is come home and do your day job at home. So I wanted a nice small spot where I could put out like 2 pots of flowers and call it a day and not have to take care of the yard. Because I want to write when I'm at home. So yeah, you set the standards that make you healthy and happy, not your parents, not your friend group, not your boss.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want the day job to really be a day job, as in an all-day job.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's right, indeed. That's right. You too can have the weed, pots, in your townhome. That's right.
Hey, well, we do live in Colorado. The brownies here are very special.
Oh, the brownies are special. Yeah, nice. They got crowns. All right.
Oh, everything's special here. The butter too. You go into some of the dispensaries and it's like the brownies are special and butter is special. The gummy bears are special. That worries me.
Oh, I remember the gummy bears. There was a story about that when a comedian told. Good times for the person hearing it, not for him.
Yeah. No, don't mix up your specials.
Well, something that's really special and it's actually good for you is this super special, awesome book series that you two have. So, for the folks who want to keep in contact with all the stuff that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Check our website at Tearmann, TEARMANN.com. We've got links to all our social media from there, as well as links to our individual work. And you can also find all of the books pretty much anywhere you buy books, as long as you just look for O.E. Tearmann.
Yeah, and if you want to hang out in person, we're on Facebook at Aces High, Jokers Wild. Just type in that or type in Wildcards 1407 and the page will pop up. And we hang out on Twitter at etearmann.com, or excuse me, at etearmann, all one word, because I thought I was being smart using the at for the O.
Yeah, social media's like, nah, fam. We don't do that here.
I don't blame you. It gets on my nerves some days, but hey, you gotta hustle.
That's my day job, so I'm all for avoiding it.
Woo. Well, there you have it, folks. Check out the fabulous stuff that they're doing. Check it all in the magical show notes. Indeed, buy some copies of their books. Buy 50 copies each, baby. That's right.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because the goal for the series is 7 books, right? Or am I just hallucinating? Is it 10?
It's going to be 8. And then we're going to have a collection of short stories at the end. So more or less 9 eventually. But we do short stories in between each book. So if you want to just find out if you like the series, grab one of the short stories. There's one set at Christmas and there's one set for Halloween.
No, if you want to find out if you like the series, buy book 1.
All right, fair. Nobody's a better marketer than I am.
Well, there you have it, folks. Put on your ghost outfit and buy 50 copies of book 1. There you go, folks. And share with your friends and your magical family. Indeed. Share with your cat, share with your penguin and camel and goldfish. They will also enjoy having the aces high, baby. That's right, with extra weed. That's right. That's right. There'll be wild jokers afterwards, too. That's right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, any parting words before we close up the magical shop?
Just thanks again for having us. This was really great.
Yeah. To the listeners, take care of yourselves and keep on rocking on.
How's it going, my friend? I'm glad you made it to the end. That shows that you really enjoyed what you heard and you are an uncommon finisher. Thanks for giving this show a listen. If you really want to help out the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone that you care about or someone that needs to hear this message because we want to spread this podcast around like butter on bread if that's your type of thing. And if it's not your type of thing, still spread it around anyway because good stuff needs to be shared with good people like yourself.